Hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in a feeling of calm and resourcefulness, and as you exhale, just feel like any stress is leaving your body. That's it. Breathing in that feeling of calm and resourcefulness, and if your eyes aren't already closed, now is the time to close them. That's it. Now. Continue to breathe in at increasingly deeper levels. And the deeper you breathe, the more resourceful you feel. Sometimes when people feel overwhelmed or confused, they tend to breathe in a shallow way from the top of their chest. But I wonder what would happen if, as you exhale a little bit longer than you normally would. Breathing in that resourceful feeling, but when you exhale, taking a bit longer for that breath to just leave your body. And because you're breathing more out, you're taking a slightly deeper breath in. And increasingly, your breaths are getting longer and longer, deeper and deeper. I want you to use your imagination to imagine that you are in a chaotic environment, perhaps a chaotic workplace. And I don't know what kind of work you do, but let's just imagine that you're sat in front of a messy desk. Imagine that you're on the chair, and it's a comfortable chair, an ergonomic chair, giving you good posture, enabling you to feel focused. But at the same time, as you look in front of you, I want you to imagine there are papers everywhere. There are things jotted down in no particular order. I want you to imagine there is a screen revealing an inbox with emails that are left unread, applications open and not completed, lots of work that's been started but not finished. And I want you to get an overwhelming feeling of being unsettled, that it isn't clear what it is that you need to do next, because there is no way of knowing what the priority is. And I want you to scan your body as you look at this pile of papers, unfinished work, unread emails, projects that are started but not finished. Scan your body for where you feel any feelings that don't quite feel right. That might be overwhelm, confusion. Scan your body for things that mean that you feel less than resourceful. And now, as you breathe in, I want you to imagine that the breath that you're breathing in makes you feel more resourceful, and whatever that sensation was of overwhelm or confusion, that is starting to exhale in your outward breath. Therefore, you're breathing a feeling of focus and resourcefulness, and when you exhale, any feelings of overwhelm or confusion are leaving your body. So, in each and every breath, you're feeling more and more resourceful, and any of those detrimental feelings are starting to leave your body. That's it. And again, pay attention to this messy desk with unfinished work, papers, perhaps envelopes that are unopened. get a sense of the overwhelming amount that needs to be done. You just simply don't know where to start. And I want you to imagine somewhere on this desk is one of those executive toys where you've got several, perhaps pendulums all linked together like a cradle, where if you lift one ball bearing and you let go, the ball bearing on the other end starts to rise. And I want you to imagine that you lift up one side, let go, and see the ball bearings click from left to right. You can perhaps hear the clicking sound. And I want you to get an overriding sense of focus, and it helps you to relax now as you look at the ball bearings going from left to right in this executive toy. Just focus your attention not on all of that unfinished work, but simply on the ball bearings going up and down from left to right. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and I want you to imagine that you're going so deeply relaxed that you can imagine what it would be like to escape your own cluttered mind. And let's do that now. Focus on those ball bearings. 5, getting deeper and deeper relaxed. 4, feeling more resourceful. 3, increasing focus. 2, overwhelm, leaving your body. And 1, just imagine that you are now able to see your desk, and you sat in that chair as if you're looking at yourself from a different perspective. And I want you to imagine that you've got the ability to remote control that version of you, that it's your physical body, but your ability to influence what that body does is now no longer inside your own head. And notice that immediately any feelings of overwhelm or confusion dramatically reduce, making you feel more and more resourceful, more and more focused, better able to see the wood for the trees. And I wonder what would happen if we make some changes to the environment and changes to the belief of that version of you sat in that chair, so that when you return to that version of you, you have a new system, so that you are able to organize things in such a way that you do the things that need to be done and either delegate or just ditch those things that aren't really important at all. And I want you to imagine that with all of that chaos going around, it's impossible to figure out what is important and what isn't. And I want you to remote control that version of you in the chair, simply to put everything in a single pile. I want you to imagine opening envelopes, throwing away the envelope, but keeping the contents of it and not reading it, not figuring out what it means, but just putting it in a pile. And I want you to remote control that version of you, so that whole clutter that you have on your desk is now a simple pile. If there is a book, if there is a paper, if there are things jotted down on a notebook, put it all in a pile, in no particular order, just so that it's all in a single place. And then I want you to imagine what it would be like to have some kind of system for you to figure out what things are and what needs to be done. And I don't know if this will be a paper-based system, so a to-do list, or perhaps some kind of electronic system, perhaps some kind of productivity app. But I do know that you will see that version of you using a system that works for you. And I want you to notice that you go in sequential order from top to bottom of that pile. And for each of the items, perhaps an unread letter, perhaps a scrap of a note on a page, I want you to notice that your first objective is simply to capture that information, to put it in a place where you know that you will do something with it, and then to clarify clarify what it is that needs to be done. And I want you to think of a very simple system that at the point where you're going through that particular thing, I want you to ask yourself a question. Imagine putting a question into the mind of that version of you sat on that chair in front of that big pile of paper. And I want you to think whether or not this thing that you're looking at right now at the top of that pile is actionable. Is it something that you can actually do something with or not? And I want you to really think that if it's something that you just don't need to do because it's not important and there is nothing that you need to action, imagine just putting it straight in the bin, that you hold the item once and you put it straight in the bin or waste paper or recycling straight away. And then I want you to really think, is this something that you would like to do but you just can't do it right now? Because I wonder what would happen if you could just file that away somewhere, file that away in the exact place that you would need it to be at the point where you are ready to do that thing. Perhaps putting it in a file named someday for the future. But then I want you to think if it is something that is actionable right now. Because sometimes you see something and it's a very quick thing to do. Perhaps you just need to send a quick message or a quick email. Sometimes you just need to approve something, sign something electronically. But I want you to think, what is the next action? What is it that needs to be done? And I want you to think that if this thing that needs to be done related to that thing that you're clarifying right now can be done in under 2 or 3 minutes, I want you to see that version of you doing it instantly. Because why delegate it to someone else or defer it to a later time if it's possible to do the very thing that needs to be done quickly? And I wonder if maybe a quarter or half of all of those things in that pile, whether that's an electronic pile in your inbox or perhaps a physical pile of papers on your desk, I wonder how much of those things can be done relatively quickly. And if they can be done in under a few minutes, see yourself clearing the deck, see yourself doing it straight away. But I wonder as you go through and you start to clarify some of those things and figure out, can they be done, actioned or not? And if they can be actioned, I wonder if you can organize it in a particular way so you know what needs to be done, what the very next action is that's required, and also who is best placed to do it. Because it may be that certain things need to be done, but they don't need to be done by you. And I wonder what kind of system you'll see yourself using to delegate things to the right person in a way that you'll ensure that they are actually done on time and done to the required standard. Because it doesn't make sense to delegate an activity to someone else if that other person has no system to make sure that they'll do it. All it means is that you're paying past the parcel with productivity tasks that may never get opened. But if you have that system and see yourself using a system where when you delegate it, you have confidence that it's going to the right person that has the right skills, or abilities or resources to do that thing in such a way that it would be done to a required standard. And I want you to see the facial expressions and the body language of this version of you sat at that chair in front of that desk as the pile gets lower and lower. Notice that version of you seems more in control, more relaxed, more able to see the wood for the trees. But perhaps it's something that can't be done straight away. And perhaps it's something that can't be delegated to someone else. But perhaps it still needs to be done. It just can't be done right now. And then I want you to see yourself deferring it to a time, perhaps in a calendar or in a future trigger, where you will know what needs to be done and have the tools, resources, or information required to do it at that point in time. Because not everything can be done at a desk. Maybe what you need to do is to buy something from a shop, in which case you might see yourself making a note of that in a system that can be used on your phone, so when you are out shopping, you know exactly what it is that you need to buy and where you need to buy it from. Perhaps the thing is physical activity that can't be done inside and must be done outside. Maybe it's exercise, or perhaps doing something relaxing. And that can't be done necessarily at a desk. So see yourself perhaps scheduling that thing so that you end up doing it at the time where it's most relevant for the task in hand. Notice that everything can either be done in the moment, delegated to someone else, deferred to a later point in time, or simply ditched, discarded, decided that it isn't important enough to be done. But also that all of these things are only possible if you know how to sort them, how to evaluate them, how to pigeonhole them, so you know what is the thing, where is it leading to, and what is the very next action point required to move it along on its journey. Too many people confuse activity with productivity. And maybe you know people, or seen people, or have experienced it yourself, where it feels like you can spend a whole day being busy, but never actually feeling like you've accomplished anything. How many times do you read the same email or look at the same bit of paper, simply shuffling it around your desk, but never actually actioning anything to move it forward? And I want you to see yourself now at that desk with increased levels of clarity, increased levels of organizational ability. That this version of you now in front of you has the ability to capture information, clarify what the task or action or outcome is, and then organize it in such a way that it either happens immediately, it's delegated to someone else, it's deferred for the future, or it's simply discarded, ditched, thrown away, and decided that it isn't important to do right now. And notice that with that system, suddenly, whereas before was overwhelm, now is replaced with clarity. Where before was confusion, now has a sense of certainty of what needs to be done, who needs to do it, when it needs to be done by. And I want you to crucially see that version of you with all the resources required to do things competently. See yourself in that way, with that frame of mind, with that body language, with the breathing. Because sometimes you can tell just by looking at someone that things have gotten a bit too much. They're not in a position to figure out what needs to be done or what's most important, and they feel that they are buried under a snow, an avalanche of workload. And sometimes the goal isn't to just chip away at tiny bits of snow, but to actually get yourself out of that situation so you can see everything from a different perspective, to figure out what is important and know that you have the resources to be able to do it. I want you to see this version of you being so organized that they even schedule when they're going to review certain things, because sometimes things are deferred for the future with no specific time that can be done or scheduled. Sometimes things are delegated to other people but we have to follow up with those people to see if it's happened on time. Sometimes we're waiting on information or an action from someone else before we can do what we're able to do next. And I want you to see this version of you regularly reviewing where things are, so that things that can be actioned are then actioned promptly. See yourself in control, in the driver's seat, that even though this version of you is incredibly busy, you are so organized that you're able to do more in a day than perhaps previously you would be able to do in a week. See yourself with increasing levels of competency. Perhaps see the communication between you and other people being more precise, asking questions about what's needed to action something, to see if someone has the time to do something that's been delegated to them, to figure out if they have the confidence levels or competency to do it to the required standard. If there's any problems, they will elicit them in advance. See that version of you being able to spin so many plates because you know exactly what plates are spinning. And I want you to see that this version of you is able not just to clear the decks on your desk, and whereas before there was chaos and clutter, now there is simply a single inbox and an outbox. The whole desk is super clear. And I want you to imagine that what's happened on the desk is also happening in the email inbox. I want you to imagine that whereas before there was maybe hundreds of unread emails, now everything has been gone through in that same system to figure out, to clarify if the email can be actioned. If it just needs a quick response, see yourself at that desk replying to the email instantly. But also see yourself clarifying that for many of these emails, it's not important that you do anything. It may be that you're just aware of it, in which case, see yourself moving that email to a folder or deleting it because there's no action required from you. See yourself forwarding emails that need to be delegated to someone else, but see yourself forwarding the email with a message of exactly what you're expecting to be done and when it needs to be done by. And notice that what you can do with a physical pile of papers on your desk, you can also do with all of those emails in your inbox. And notice that the same psychological resources, the freedom that you felt when you saw yourself plowing through that workload on your desk, feels exactly the same way in your email inbox. See yourself looking more relaxed, more resourceful, more in control. And also notice the impact that it had on other people. Whereas the interaction before might have been frustration or anxiety because people were waiting on you, now see yourself in control, and notice the ripple effect of that is that the whole machine is now more organized. The cogs are connecting. One action relates to another action, and everything has a ripple effect to get more things done. And I wonder what impact that would have in your work, in your life, in the amount of free time, in the reduction of stress levels. See yourself transforming over the next 3, 6, or 12 months in the future. See that the more organized and in control you are, the more you're able to accomplish with less stress, less anxiety, and more free time to really enjoy your evenings and weekends. But also notice that the time that's been created by not sitting on the same task again and again now creates more time for you to engage on the most important projects. Maybe in the past, there wasn't enough time to take on a big new challenge, to set big ambitious goals, because you were exhausted and had run out of time just doing the day-to-day admin. But now that part seems to be so much more organized, See yourself with the time and the resources and the enthusiasm to take on more meaningful, more ambitious, more impactful projects, and see yourself doing them well. See yourself with a sense of drive and purpose. And I wonder again what impact that would have on your life, your career, your business, but also your free time, as the ripple effect of organizing your time ripples through your life now. And then when you are convinced that this version of you sat at that desk is productive, engaged, in control, and resourceful, I want you to step back into that version of you and notice that that feeling perhaps of overwhelm and uncertainty is no longer there, and instead has been replaced with a sense of enthusiasm, clarity, a real sense of purpose and mission, and an inner confidence that you can be relied on to get things done. Feel that resourceful feeling and integrate that into not things that you need to do, but now things that would be intuitive as ways to think. That you will first of all capture any of these loose ends, these open loops, clarify what needs to be done and who needs to do it, organize it in such a way that it actually will be done, review it regularly so that you don't miss things where you're waiting on other people or need to wait for some other action, and then enable you to be truly engaged in what's really important, that's really going to have the biggest impact for you, for your career, and your working and personal life. But I want you to imagine that this is just a thought, that the idea of you being at a desk is just an idea. And I want you to imagine that you are actually where you are right now, listening to my voice, hearing it in your body, fully integrated in the present. In a few moments' time, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken with a real feeling of clarity. And it may be that in your life there are these open loops, these unread emails, these things that need to be actioned but you're not sure what they are. In which case, when you awaken, you will awaken with a feeling of determination to take these concepts from an intellectual idea in your head into practices that you perfect in your real life. You will have a sense of mission, purpose, to clear the decks so that you can see the wood for the trees, and any feelings of uncertainty and overwhelm very quickly will be replaced with a feeling of confidence, direction, and a sense of purpose and clarity. You will awaken in the present feeling fully activated, resourceful, and eager to get things done. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.